in Myrtle Beach in 1954, and I've done a lot of things. I've been in advertising and construction and taught in the first real estate school in South Carolina. And in 1988, I started a company called Actions and Attitudes. So a little over 25 years ago, I started this, and I work with companies and organizations in coaching and speaking and training and those kinds of things. And I've had the opportunity to work with a national company over the years, and got together this time and said, well, maybe some management training is needed and some leadership training is needed. So we I put together an outline for it, and we went over it, and here we are with our first session. Our second session will be here, Benita, I think the 12th. Back in this place. We'll take a break in about an hour. If you need one before then, just raise your hand. It's being recorded for future use for people coming in. So with that said, that tells you a little bit about me. Now let me find out a little bit about you. Anyone graduate from school with a degree in leadership or management? No, sometimes I find those. Any of you think that the position you have in leading and managing people is easy? No. No, it's tough. If you have a notebook that has tabs in it, 1 through 5, and they're colored, and you look beside you, and the person does not have one, that's because Office Depot was out. They were supposed to have been FedEx to me, and they said they would be there by 1. I think I saw the FedEx truck coming as I was leaving my office, so I will bring them on the 12th. You're only dealing with 1 tab today anyway, so it doesn't matter, and we'll catch up. Ask you a couple questions. One is, would geese fly in what formation do they fly? V. And one leg or one side of that V is always longer than the other side. Why? Yeah, more geese on that side, okay? You remember that from last time, okay. Yeah, more geese on that side. I share that with you because what we're going to talk about is obvious. You're going to sit there and go, gosh, I've heard that. I already knew that. Or if I'd have thought for a few minutes, I could have figured that out for myself. Anyone here ever been bitten by an elephant or a giraffe? Elephant or giraffe? I've been doing this for over 25 years, spoken all over the country, spoken to hundreds of thousands of people, have yet to find anyone bitten by an elephant or a giraffe. How about flies, gnats, stoseums, mosquitoes? Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the little things in life that make the difference, isn't it? Okay, so I don't have any big things for you in this leadership and management course that we're going through, but I've got some little things. You see, depending on your age and the size of your family, you are only going to experience somewhere between 10 and 30 big things in your entire life. That's it. Choosing a career, changing a career, getting married, having children, having grandchildren, dealing with divorce, those are big things, but it's the little things. There was a couple that were having some marital problems, so they went to a marriage counselor. And the marriage counselor said, well, what seems to be the problem? And neither of them would speak. And the marriage counselor said, look, if I'm going to help you, one of you's got to tell me what's going on. So what's going on? And finally the wife spoke. She said, well, it's my husband. He never tells me he loves me anymore. Husband looks at his wife. He said, that's what's causing all our problem? He said, let me tell you one thing. I married you 23 years ago. If I told you I love you then. If I change my mind, I'll let you know. We need to be reminded. We need to be reminded of little things. So for some of you, this is going to be some reminder things. Maybe when I cover some stuff that you've heard or that you use or that you know about, you might go, uh-huh. Maybe some of the stuff we cover, you might go, uh-oh, I didn't know that that's how that worked. Some of you may hit some oh no moments. Oh no, that can't be true because I don't like it, don't believe in it, or whatever. And hopefully there'll be some aha moments. Aha, those kinds of things will help me as we go through. Have some fun, learn some things as we go through. Ask questions. Thank you for your feedback. Those of you that sent the things in, thank you for that. The first thing I gave you was a book list. So if you'll look in there under tab 1, if you've got tab 1, if not, it's just right there. It's a leadership book list. Those are books that I've read on leadership and/or management, and I'll comment on a couple of them for you. And if I reference a book as we go through this, it will probably be on that list, unless it's one of the 2 or 3 that I'm reading right now. At any rate. 1 and 2, the 20 few irrefutable laws of leadership and indispensable characteristics or qualities of leaders. Maxwell's probably one of the most renowned people on the planet where leadership is concerned. Those are good. 17 and 18 are by him as well. They talk about teamwork. Any of you read number 21, the book Fish? That came out a few years ago. It's about a fish company in Seattle, Washington, and there's a video on it or a DVD on it, and you watch it, and it's about working better internally so that you can work better externally. 23, the 5 dysfunctions of a team. If you want to really see kind of what your dysfunctions are, that's a good little read by Patrick Lencioni. Good to Great has been quoted, number 28 has been quoted by a lot of people, and any of you read that one? No? That where it says you got to have not only the right people on the bus, they have to be in the right seats, and that's quoted by and used by a lot of companies as well. How many of you actually play or teach golf? Play or teach golf? About half or a third. Anyway, number 31, The Power of Full Engagement, was written by Jim Lair. He's a sports psychologist, and he says that he can watch people playing golf, particularly at tournament level, and tell as they walk down the fairway who's going to win. He can also do it with tennis tournaments. I just found it a good, interesting book to read. 43, The Principle of the Path. We'll talk about that because we'll talk about goal setting as well. Andy Stanley wrote that book. And what he says of the principle of the path is this, and it's true for you and it's true for me. In each area of your life and in your career, you are on a path. In each area of your life and your career, you're on a path. Now, you can stop and figure out where that path is taking you, or you can just be surprised when you get there. A lot of people go, how did I get in this financial mess? You've been on that path. A lot of people, how did I get these health issues? You've been on that path. How did I get to where I am? How did I get successful? You've been on that path. 49, Love Works. That guy's CEO of Hersham Entertainment, Family Entertainment over in Atlanta. That one's good. 50 is good also. 51 I just read, The Art of Servant Leadership. Any of you read Who Moved My Cheese ever? It was out back when. A friend of mine gave me the last one 2 weeks ago, and I wasn't. He said, "Petesy, here's a book for you. We exchange books all the time." And I wasn't going to read it. I Moved Your Cheese, and I went, yeah. Okay, so I pick up the book, and I kind of thumb through it, and he's slamming the Who Moved My Cheese guys a little bit. And I'm going, I don't think I'm going to read this book. And I emailed him, and I said, thanks for the book. I look forward to it. I got to finish the 2 I'm reading now, which I was reading too. And I picked it up that Friday night, and I went, let me see what this guy's got to say. Well, he has something to say. And on the one hand, he is slamming them a little bit, but not a lot. But what he says is, what I got out of it, I think he read more into Who Moved My Cheese than I read into it. But I read more into his book maybe than he intended to read. What he said was, we're all in a maze. And we can stay in that maze or we can break out. I mean, that's kind of where we are in our country today. The story's been around for a long time. You go to the circus and you see the elephant, right? And the elephant's standing there, and the circus hasn't started yet, so the elephant's standing outside the tent, and the elephant has a rope or a chain around its leg, excuse me, and it's hooked to a little thing that you screw in the ground, right? Now, can the elephant pull away from that? Yeah. Yes, he can. Why doesn't he? Some of you know the answer. If he can, why doesn't he? He has nowhere to go. Well, but if he wanted to go, he won't go. Do what? He doesn't know. And the reason he doesn't know is this. What they do with baby elephants is they put a chain on them, they hook them to something that they can't move, that they can't move. And when they get older, when that's around their leg and they feel a little bit of pressure, they know they can't. We are conditioned people, and we can do more than what we think we can do. Now, I don't go along with that if you can see it and believe it, you can achieve it. Not if you're not any good at it, you can't. Okay, you got to get good at it. Okay, so that's just some reference books there. If you want to know anything about those, you can email me or say, tell me about this one, or you want to know something specific about anything, but I wanted you to have that. Top of the next page, and one of the feedbacks I got from the survey that you do well, as well as you need to improve upon, is the first one, and that is listen. Listen. Listen is one of the highest compliments that one person can pay to another person, just to listen to them. I travel a lot, sometimes short distances in and around the 75-mile area and sometimes across the country. So I listen to the radio a lot. Got in the car one day and I turned it on and the news was on, and they talked about this guy in Florida who had started a new business. And his new business was this. You could call him. It was not an 800 number. You had to pay for the call. You could call him, and if you paid him $5 on your credit card, he would listen to you for 5 minutes. And I did like you. I thought it was a joke. I'm waiting on the catch line until the announcer said, he's booked for 3 years solid. We don't listen to anybody, do we? They're down the hall and we text. They're across the way and we email, right? We don't listen. We don't listen. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being low and 10 being high, how would you rate yourself on an average day as a listener? 1's low, 10's high. What do you think? 2? The ladies always go 8, 9. The guys go 2. I don't even want to play the game, man. Anyway. By the way, for the most part, females are better listeners. They have to be. I was at a social function, a little cookout thing a couple years ago, and the guys were standing around the fireplace. There was like 8 of us, and we were telling funny stories, and we were taking turns. I'd tell a story, and he'd tell a story, and we'd laugh at each time, and we'd go from person to person. And a good friend of mine was standing there, and he punched me in the side. He said, "Look." And through the den, the females were sitting, all of our wives were sitting around the table, and they were all talking at the same time, and they could all understand each other at the same time. Okay. Let's see how you are as a listener. So I want you to just listen to these words. Here we go. Bed, rest, awake, tired, dream, wake, eat, night, comfort, sound, slumber, snore. Write down as many of those as you can recall. Write down as many of those as you can recall. Okay, count them up. How many words? How many words did you write? 6, 7? 4? Anybody fewer than 4? More than 7? Okay, I said 12 words. Nobody got them all. Most of the time, people get somewhere between 4 and 10, depending on the setting, the time of day, what's going on in their lives, and that kind of thing. So you write in the place where you should be. Now let's see how you did. Bed was the first word I said, so if you got bed, raise your hand. Okay? Rest was the second word. I said wake, and I also said awake, if you got either one of both of those. Okay, how about eat? We can tell who had lunch. Okay, how about slumber? Very good. How about snore? Outstanding. How about sleep? If you got sleep, keep your hand up. Ladies and gentlemen, look around the room. I said 12 words. Nobody got them all. The people with a hand up wrote down a word I did not say. I did not say sleep. So guess what? People are not hearing everything you say, and they're hearing things you don't say. And you're not hearing everything they say, and you're hearing things they don't say as well. Now, I know there's some doubters out there. Well, he did so say sleep. No, he didn't. He said bed, rest, awake, tired, dream, wake, eat, night, comfort, sound, slumber, snore. A lot of things that had to do with sleep. Research says that 70% of the people who hear that list of words write down sleep. I did it for Real Estate Educators Association. Those are the people that teach the classes throughout the Southeast. They had a convention here about 8 years ago. I don't know, a couple hundred of them. Anyway, a lady from Virginia emailed me the following week, and she said, Petesy, it works. She put down 12 words that had to do with selling real estate, and she left out closing, and she said they all wrote down closing. The second thing to do is to take notes, to write things down. To take notes, to write things down. If you're going to be in leadership and management, for that matter, I think effective in life in anything, I go nowhere without pen and paper. I go into a panic. I'll stop and buy one. Because our mind is for thinking. Pencil and paper or your cell phone, anywhere you can put something down is for remembering. And there's a reason for this. A couple of you said, might as well get it on the table. Do the people that how many times do you need to tell them stuff before they get it? How many times? We've all got numbers. How many times do you think? 4, okay. Anybody with a number other than 4? 12, okay. Anybody else? Huh? 2, I heard somebody say? Yeah, we come up with this number. How many times are we going to have to tell them? Leading and managing people effectively is like raising children. So how many of you have children? How many of you have children? Okay. So when your child was little, you said, okay, I'm going to tell them 4 times. And if they don't, it's kind of like walking, right? What do we do? Our children walk and they fall, and you go, okay, you got 4 shots. If you don't walk in 4 shots, you'll be a crawler. Come on. And we confuse our child. I got young grandchildren. One just was a year old last week. But we confuse our children, don't we? We tell them, come on, say mama, say daddy. Who you going to say first? Talk. Walk. First 3 years of their lives, we tell them to talk and walk. And for the next 15, we tell them, sit down and shut up. They don't know what they're supposed to do. Anyway, but to take notes, for you to write things down and for others. And here's the key reason. We forget at about the same rate the things that we hear. People forget 64% of what they hear in 24 hours. People forget 64% of what they hear in 24 hours. They forget 85% of what they hear in 2 weeks, and they forget 98% of what they hear in 30 days. So how many times do you tell them? Till they get it. And let me tell you when you know they get it, when you see them doing it and or see them telling somebody else. It'll remove a lot of frustration. We'll talk about more about that later in delegating and those kinds of things. The advertising industry knows that, don't they? That's why McDonald's, Coca-Cola, Pepsi-Cola, Burger King, each one of those entities spends more than $1 million per day advertising their product. It actually goes from 1.1 to 1.35 million dollars a day. That's over $350 million to tell us about things about which we already know. Is that a waste of money? No. If they stopped for a day or skipped a day, probably wouldn't hurt them much. If they skipped a week, sales will start to go down. We need to be reminded. The third thing is to think. To think. If you're going to be effective in life, effective leader, effective manager, effective anything, it's to think. My wife accuses me in the last few years of thinking too much. And I think that I'm trying to make up for some of those years that I didn't think at all. If you have a good work ethic, and y'all talked about work ethic in what you gave me back, but if you have a good work ethic in the United States of America today, and you can think, you're ahead of about 80% of the people. Because they can't think. In Andy Stanley's book, I read it about 4 years ago, The Principle of the Path. There's something, I think, in the preface of the book, and he says, we become oblivious to the obvious. We just don't think. We just don't think. Write down the figures for $9,909 on your page somewhere. Write down the figures for $9,909. And then right under it, or right beside it, write down the figures for $12,1212. $12,1212. First one was easy, wasn't it? The second one, you wrote 12 comma and stopped, or you got a check you can't cash. That is not a number. It is, but it's not. Okay? The first one was just $9,909, $9,909. $12,1212, ladies and gentlemen, is written 13,212. 13,200. The first one required no thinking. The second one required us to have to stop and think. Come on. We hear it all the time. I've heard it on the news already today. We got to get some money from the government. Ladies and gentlemen, the government doesn't have any money. They don't have any. They get their money from us. It's our money. It's like tax to corporations. Corporations don't pay taxes. They don't. Okay? To them, a tax is an expense. And who pays the expense? The people who use the product or the service. We do. Some of you, I lost on that one. So anyway, we'll get back to this. But just to stop and think. There was a door-to-door salesman. I do a lot of work with salespeople, and salespeople like to laugh. And he was working one Saturday morning in a real nice neighborhood, came up to this big 2-story brick home, rang the doorbell, and this little kid answered the door. Little boy looked to be about 7 or 8 years old, and the little boy had on what looked to be his father's sport coat and his father's hat, and he had a lit cigar in his hand. And salespeople like to laugh, and the guy looked at the little kid, and he chuckled, and he stepped back. He said, "Good morning, young man. Are either of your parents home?" And the little boy went, "What do you think, mister?" Okay. Anyway, just to stop and think. The fourth thing is twofold. It's to review and use. To review and use. Had some pre-melanoma cancer stuff taken off my cheek a few years ago by a plastic surgeon. I used to lifeguard down here, and thought it was a badge of courage not to wear suntan lotion because we were lifeguards. We were tough. Now I'm paying the price for it. But anyway, so this past Saturday, my wife and I were having a yard sale. Got up early Saturday morning. We're going out, and it's cloudy and overcast. And I said to her, "Do you think I need to put some sunscreen on?" And she said, "It only works if you apply it. It only works. Anything you know, if you're not using it, it's not working for you." The same is true here. We'll cover a lot of stuff. If you don't use it, you just got some more nice to know stuff. And we got there. Okay. 2 foundation blocks for thoughts and behaviors. 2 foundation blocks for. Have you ever looked at anyone? It might be someone with whom you're working, or someone in a family member, or someone say, "Why are they doing that? I don't understand why anybody would do that." True? Okay. And it's this. Our thoughts and behaviors are based upon our knowledge and our beliefs. People's thoughts, what we do is based on our knowledge and our beliefs. And as it says there under beliefs, people act more upon their beliefs than they do their knowledge. I mean, we've all done it today. I have. I've been on the road. My first meeting this morning was about 8 o'clock, and I was on the road some. We've been on some road, street, or highway today where we had full and complete knowledge that the speed limit was 35, but we believed we could go faster. Last time I was on 95, okay, if you go on Interstate 95, the speed limit is what in most places? A little bit around Florence, a little bit around Fayetteville it changes. But, 70. And what happens if you're driving 70 on 95? What's going on around you? Don't those people know? My wife keeps telling me that. I don't know where that is in the law, okay? But I understand the patrolman will let you kind of go. By the way, if you wear a tie, 70% less chance of getting a ticket if you have on a tie. It's crazy, but anyway, that's the way it is. But our thoughts and behaviors are based on our knowledge and beliefs, and people act more upon their beliefs than they do. Anybody walking here today with an umbrella? Anybody bring an umbrella with them? Why not? Didn't believe it was going to rain. Okay, a couple weeks ago you said, "Got my umbrella." Well, it's cloudy. They're calling for rain out there. Okay, but we receive misinformation and it starts when we're very young. Oftentimes, doesn't it? I love the saying that says this: when you receive misinformation, the very best you can be is misinformed. A lot of misinformation in our world today, right? A lot of people are misinformed, and they believe it, but it doesn't make it right. Doesn't make it right. Anyway, finish this for me. Little Bo Peep, what? Lost her sheep and I know where to, for some of you it's been more than 30 days. You forgot 98% of it. Okay, Little Bo Peep lost her sheep, doesn't know where to find them. Come on, leave them. They'll come home. Wagging it. I learned it as a child. We taught it to our children. Our grandchildren know it as well. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a lie. Sheep are one of the dumbest things on the planet, and if you leave them alone, they won't come home. You see, if we're not careful in our lives and in our careers, we buy into stuff that sounds good, but it's not true. If it ain't broke, yeah, I fly a lot, and when I get on an airline, I don't want to get on one that has that as part of their mission statement. You don't either. Okay? What you don't know? No, what you don't know can take you out. Come on, sticks and stones? But, and what a lie that is. Because I, like you, have had bumps and bruises and scrapes and breaks that when they happen, they hurt. But they healed up and they no longer generate pain. But I have things that were said to me years ago that still hurt. You see, we need to make sure that our knowledge and belief system is based on and founded in the truth. This is my favorite time of the year, folks. I don't mind telling you. College football. I watch college football teams. I don't even Division IV. If they had one, I'd watch them. I love college football. And what are the coaches going to say and challenge the team members with before they go out and play? Or what are they going to say enable them to win the game? To give how much? 110%. Go out and leave it on the field. Give 110%. That is a lie. Nobody can give 110%. You cannot give what you do not have. You can't. If I only have $100, I can't give you 110. I might want to, but I can't. But I think it's a good challenge. And I'll ask you this. You answer this for yourself. When is the last time in any area of your life, that you gave 100% effort to anything? We don't, do we? I get to 80 and think I'm at 125. Okay, we don't. So let me finish it with this to make the point of our thoughts and behavior based on the knowledge and beliefs. We cannot have prayer in our public schools in America. Why? Because of, y'all know, come on. Separation of church and state. Good. And from where do we get that? It is not in the Constitution, it is not in the Declaration of Independence, it is not in the Bill of Rights, and it never has been. The only place you'll find it in the Constitution is Article 58 of the Constitution of the former Soviet Union. Ladies and gentlemen, it is not in our documents. It is not there. It comes from a Supreme Court case in 1947. If you want to find out how America was really founded and not somebody's opinion, okay, you can go to a website called Wall Builders, WALLBUILDERS, wallbuilders.com, by a guy named David Barton. He wrote a book called The Myth of Separation that I read about 20 years ago, and it will tell you how the United States was founded. It will tell you what they thought. It will tell you where Scripture was. It will tell you where freedom of religion came from. It will tell you that. And it's not Oprah's opinion, and it's not somebody else's opinion. We live in an opinion world today, right? I mean, if they say it on TV, come on. I love that. The commercial where the lady comes out and she says she's waiting to date the guy that she met on the internet from France. The French model, come on. I mean, if we see it on the internet. By the way, if you run out of things to do sometime and you want an interesting little exercise, go on the internet and type in the word revisionism. Revisionism. And you will find or the last time I checked, there was over 400,000 sites that you could go to. Revisionism. What you'll find is, and there are a whole lot of people on there that got a whole lot of initials behind their name. Only initials behind my name are Junior. Anyway, but what they're doing is they're revising history, even as late as the 50s and the 60s. They are rewriting history. Now, why would they be doing that? Anybody? Somebody said, I thought this was going to be leadership and management. Well, it is. But they're rewriting, because if they can rewrite history, they can control our decisions today. You even got kids in grade school? Ours just finished grade school and went to junior high. You know, do you have a clue what they're told Thanksgiving is? Anybody? What are they told? And some of you may have been told. What is Thanksgiving? Other than the time when we watch football and eat turkey and have a few days off. Yeah, and what they're teaching them today, because they're teaching my grandchildren this, because I ask them, okay? They're telling them that it was a celebration of the Pilgrims thanking the Indians for teaching them how to plant corn. Now, I'm sure they thanked them, but it was about thanking God for the new land. It was not that, okay? So if you want to find out what some of the stuff that's being revised and taught, you don't have to look very far. Let me ask you this. Think for a minute, and you can write it down or you can just respond. I'll give you, in what business are you? National Golf Management, what business are you in? Entertainment? People. You're in the people business. Every business almost is in the people business. Why? Because if you take the people away, you're out of business. You're in the people business through golf. It does entertainment. It does all of those things. It's much broader than probably what you think. But every business is in the people business. And if you're in the people business, the people who come to your course pays you. The company just manages the money. And your ability to serve those people is based on your ability to lead and manage and get buy-in from your people, or they don't serve, or they don't come back. And we'll talk more about that in the future. Okay, getting and keeping one's act together. Getting and keeping one's act together. The A stands for accountable. The A stands for accountable. Astronaut Charlie Duke, who's a good friend of mine, one of the 16 men who walked on the moon, says we live in a no-fault society. Not my fault, your fault. True? I mean, we can go home tonight and we can find out who killed this or who shot that, and we know what the deal is, right? It's not little Johnny's fault that he went to school today and killed his teacher and his classmates. Because little Johnny always wanted chocolate chip cookies, and his parents never let him have them when he was little, and he's been mad ever since, so that's why he killed the whole 5th grade. Or, you hear it like this. He ate too many chocolate chip cookies one time, and he never got over that sugar high. Okay? I mean, come on. We live in a no-fault society. If you're going to be successful and effective, and we'll talk about how to hold others accountable, we need to be accountable. The C stands for correctable. The C stands for correctable. Any of you ever heard the name Cynthia Haynes? Means nothing to you, right? Cynthia Haynes. I was traveling somewhere. I remember it was in September of 1999. I picked up a USA Today paper, and they had an article about Cynthia Haynes. What happened to Cynthia Haynes was this. She got on the internet, and she started gambling on the internet. And over an 18-month period on the internet, she lost over $70,000. And the article was about that, but it was also about Cynthia Haynes that was suing Visa and MasterCard for aiding and abetting her losing the money. It was their fault, not hers, correctable. The T stands for teachable. The T stands for teachable. I love the saying that says this, it's what you learn after you know it all that really counts. If you have a little garden at home, or for that matter, if you have a big garden or farm somewhere, most people are going to have one vegetable. I was corrected about 2 years ago and told that it was a fruit. In the South, it's a vegetable. Anyway, one vegetable in their vegetable garden. What is it? Tomatoes. I mean, they're easy to grow, fun to grow, good to eat, good to give away, and all that stuff. So a little tomato bush comes up, produces a little yellow flower. That little yellow flower then turns into a little green tomato. That little green tomato grows and grows and grows, begins to turn a pinkish color, and ultimately turns what color? Red. And when it's red, what do we call that being? Right. And when it's ripe, what do we do with it? Pick it and we eat it, or pick it and we give somebody else to eat. What happens if we leave it on the vine? It rots. Ladies and gentlemen, you and I, your company and my company is exactly like that tomato. After ripe comes rot. When you think you know everything about everything you need to know, get ready, because rot's the next stage. Okay? Just to point that out to you as food for thought. Top of the questions or comments on anything? Anybody? Okay. 3 characteristics of a healthy business. Number 1, it's alive. It's alive. There's 3 characteristics of anything healthy. Number 1, it's alive. Number 2, it's balanced. That means it's working like it's supposed, all the parts are working like it's supposed to, and that's part of your job in various situations, to make sure not only you're doing your part, but the people with whom you're working are doing their parts. Okay? And the third is that it's growing. Anything that's healthy is alive, balanced, and growing. So this is to help you maybe better balance yourself and maybe better balance other people as well. For a long time in my life, for many years as a matter of fact, I was looking and wondering, there are keys to success. I've got a list of keys. I got books that talks about keys to success, and you've probably seen it or read it or been exposed to it somewhere. But I always wondered, was there one primary key? Was there one primary key? In other words, was there one at the top? That's what I wondered. And about a year and a half ago, I found it. The book that I was reading wasn't about that. It was actually buried in the next to the last chapter of the book, on the next to the last page of the chapter, just in a paragraph, almost a no-by-the-way comment. And it's this. Anybody venture a guess as to what the number one determinant of success for anyone in anything is? Peer pressure stuff, isn't it? I'm not going to say the wrong thing. Anybody venture a guess? What comes to mind? What's the number one thing, number one requirement for success? Quan. Quan. Okay. Yep. What? What's the number one? Anybody? Money. Okay. Education. Okay. I mean, you could talk about commitment and enthusiasm and drive and encouragement from other people and focus and goals. And all those things are true to a point. But I want to give you the number one thing. The number one thing. The number one thing, ladies and gentlemen, for success in anything is behavior. It is what you do. If you watch football, the winners are going to do better. If you play golf, the winner does better. It's not what you think about doing. It's not what you meant to do. It's not what you got trained to do. It is what you do. In the United States of America, this sign means what? And I say that because I was doing this a couple years ago, and somebody said outside the USA, in some countries, this is a bad sign. It's not a good sign. I don't know what country, don't care. But anyway, this is an okay sign. Okay, so I want you to hold up your okay sign. Hold up your okay sign. Now what I want you to do with your okay sign is, I want you to take your okay sign and I want you to put it on your chin. Put it on your chin. No, ladies and gentlemen, that's your cheek. This is your chin. Okay? As a leader and manager, and we'll talk about it in communication, but as a leader and manager, supervisor in your division, it is not what you say to your people, it's what you do. They know more about you than what you realize they know. They know what you drink. They know when you drink it. They know when you go here. They know when you go there. They probably know what clothes you wear on certain days. Now, they're not conscious of it, but they know because we just become aware of people that we're around all the time. So what drives behavior? Our beliefs drive our behavior. These are the top three, and everything else you thought about or that we talked about falls under these three. And our knowledge drives our beliefs. So part of my job is to equip and teach. Hi, Bob. How you doing? Equip and teach and challenge. Better equip you to better do what you need to do. You're going to have to take it and do it, but that's me. Questions on that? It wowed me. I've been walking around for the last couple of years going, it's what you do. My company, Actions and Attitudes, I wanted to name it Attitudes and Actions. I'm writing a book about attitudes and called Life's Main Ingredient and all that. But Attitudes and Actions just didn't flow off my tongue as well 25 years ago. And so I named it Actions and Attitudes. Little did I know that I got it right. Little did I know that our attitude plays a huge part. But you can have the best attitude in the world. If you don't do squat, you're no good. You're no good. Because for what do you get paid and for what the people that you work with get paid? We all are paid for two things, what we know and what we can do. We don't get paid to show up. We don't get paid because we need a new house. We don't get paid because we need another car. We don't get paid because we don't like our standard of living. We get doctors. I've got a couple of friends of mine that are orthopedic surgeons from way back when. $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 a year. Well, nobody's supposed to make that. They get paid for what they know, and they get paid for what they can do. So if you want to increase your income, you increase your knowledge and your ability to do it. That's what we get paid for. And we don't hear a lot of that today. I mean, they're supposed to be striking, I think, next week I heard on the news, some fast food workers for $15 an hour, minimum wage, whatever. They don't get it. Misinformation, they don't get it. Because if that goes up, guess what? Guess what the $3.98 burgers are going to go to? $7.98, and we're not going there anymore, and it closes, and they don't have a job. Nobody gets the full circle. They just, it's just there because we don't or won't think. So to do that, it says to have something I've never had before, I must become something I've never been before. To have better results, you have to become. I'm about an 18 handicapper in golf. Okay? To have a 12, what has to happen? Do what? Yeah, sink more putts. But I have to become the person that can achieve 12. I can be 18 and want it all day long. Write it on my hand, write it on my mirror, write it on this, tell everybody about it, think it, believe it, achieve it, and all that kind of stuff. But I have to become the person. If you want to be a more effective leader and manager, you have to become one. It doesn't just happen. 5 keys. Anybody comment on that? Anybody questions? By the way, you are welcome to duplicate this, share it with anybody with whom you work, copy it, call it yours. I don't care. It comes with it. And you'll have DVDs or some means by which to watch it and review in the future. 5 keys and questions for achieving success. One is vision. One is vision. Realize this, I put this together a couple years ago, and the old saying, a picture's worth 1,000 words, it absolutely is. It absolutely is. And the question is, do I see it? We can't do anything that we can't, A, see being done, or B, see it done in our mind's eye. That's why let me show you is such a key. But we have to see it. We have to see it. I mean, you don't have to look very far. That's why football teams show their players so much film. They show them film of themselves as well as the other team. Here's what you did. You thought you blocked to the outside, but your first step was to the inside. Well, Coach, I thought I would. Yeah, but you weren't. See? See? And then they say, see, here's how you do it. The U stands for understand. The U stands for understand. And the question is, do I get it? Do I see it? Do I get it? The third, or the K is knowledge. The K is knowledge. And the question is, do I know what to do? Do I know what to do? Do I see it? Do I get it? Do I know what to do? The E stands for execute. And the question is, will I do it? Do I see it? Do I get it? Do I know what to do? And will I do it? And the D stands for dedication. Dedication. And the question is, will I continuously do it? And everything I've done for 25 years in coaching, consulting, facilitating, speaking, and training and equipping has been to address one or more of those. And if you have a breakdown with the people that you lead and manage, it's a breakdown in one of those. They don't see it. They don't get it. They don't know what to do. When you hire someone, they have to bring the knowledge, skills, insight, and experience with them to the job, or you have to give it to them. It doesn't come through osmosis. You can't put them out there with this guy and say you'll get it. Teach them. If you go to work for Disney Corporation, you spend the first week learning about Disney, learning where things are, learning what to do, the orientation part. But if you have a breakdown, it will be in one or more of those. And let me tell you the most common ones that I've seen, regardless of the company. They see it, they get it, they're trained, they know what to do, and they won't do it, or they'll just do it on Monday. The rest of the week, I'm okay. I did it on Monday. Okay? The breakdown's normally in the last two, but it can be in any one of them. When I see someone that wants to do it, and by the way, if you've got people that show up, and they show up on time, there's one thing that I know about those people. I think, or one thing I believe about them, I believe they want to do a good job. And you are probably the last person they're going to ask for help. I mean, if you've got kids, you know they go spend a night with a friend of theirs and come home and said, their mama taught me this. Well, I could have taught you that, and not only that, I've been trying to. Okay? But they hear it through different ears. We good? Okay. Questions or comments on that? Give you from a couple books that are on the page on your leadership page there. The Higher Laws of Business. This guy Jack Stack a number of years ago bought one of International Harvester's International Harvester, who went out of business, bought one of their companies to begin to make tractors. The sales price of the company was $10 million. He and his friends put together $90 million. That's all the money they had. And he wrote this book, The Great Game of Business, from which these higher laws come. And he and his buddies got in there and had to make it work. They didn't have any more money. And he was on the cover, I guess it's been 15 or 18 years ago, but he was on the cover of all the business magazines for what he did. And I want to give these to you. Number one, you get what you give. If you want respect, you give respect. If you want promptness, you give promptness. If you want accountability, you become accountable. It says it's easy to stop one person, but it's pretty hard to stop a team. And some of these we know, and some we just need to be reminded of. Might be one or two that you don't know. What goes around comes around. And I don't know where Jack Stack is from, but he must be from the South, because the next one is you gotta, G-O-T-T-A, you gotta wanna. Excuse me, you do what you gotta do. And the next one is you gotta, G-O-T-T-A, wanna. W-A-N-N-A is what he says. Number 6, I like. You can fool some of the fans, but you can never fool the players. Not for very long. Let me ask you how many would like to do this. So here's the deal. Between now and Monday, between now and next Tuesday, Tuesday will be a regular day. I don't know what Labor Day Monday's like for y'all, but Tuesday will be a regular day. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to make a list of all of your weaknesses, and I want you to post them in the break room or somewhere where the people with whom you work can go read them. Make a list of all of your weaknesses and go put them where the people, not maybe somebody somewhere else, but you put them there so that they can go read them. How many of you want to do that? Anybody want to do that? Ladies and gentlemen, let me give you some insights. If you did that, there would not be one thing on that list that those people don't already know about you. They know your weaknesses, don't they? They may not be aware of them, but they will go, oh, that's his weakness? I didn't know that. Yeah, they know. It might be a confirmation for them. Anyway, it's a little exercise. We know our people. You know your people, and they know you. You can't fool them. Number 7, when you raise the bottom, the top rises. Number 8, when people set their own targets, they usually hit them. That is, they participate to some degree in what you're about. Number 9, I love. If nobody pays attention, people stop caring. The people with whom you work will not care to any higher level than you care. It's like the old story about crabbing in a number 10 wash tub. Some of you may not have done that before, but you go down here and you get chicken necks or fish heads or whatever, and you put it on a string, you put it in the creek, and crab grabs onto it, and you pull them up, you catch them in the net, and you put them in this big wash tub. And if you've ever done that, you know what I'm about to say. If you haven't, let me tell you. You got all these crabs in the wash tub, okay? And one crab starts to crawl out, and he's almost to the top. Okay, tell the cat what?
You're going to pull him back down.
Going to pull him back down. It works the same way in your department. Don't you do a whole lot better. We don't do better around here. Because if you do better, then I got to do better. And anyway, and that's human nature. That's human nature to some degree. Number 10, as they say in Missouri, stuff rolls downhill, and you can see the little note I put to the side over there. It doesn't originally say that, but since I'm doing their handout, I will. We're still good for about 5? Okay. The next one's from 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, the first book on your page there, and Maxwell talks about this. People determines the potential of an organization. It's the people that determine the potential. Relationships determine morale, how they get along. Structure determines size. Vision determines direction. And leadership determines success. But they all work together. They all need to be there. Our daughter and son-in-law moved to Omaha, Nebraska 2 years ago. He took a job out there with Physicians Mutual. And she's from here, and she was trying to explain to her friends here about what's different. Any of you from or been around Omaha much? Anybody? Okay. Our daughter was trying to explain to some friends of hers what it's like to live in Omaha. And we get out there about 2 or 3 times a year, and they absolutely love it. And it's different. It's different. And she was trying to tell them the people are different. She told me this, we were out in July, and she told me this summer, she said, I was talking to Mary, and she said Mary was asking me, and here's how she tried to describe to the people. She said to Mary, her friend, she said, Mary, do you know how the people treat you when you go into Chick-fil-A? We all know that. It would be my pleasure. It's my pleasure. I mean, they're about nice you to death, kind of, sort of. I mean, really good. But it's good service, right? Mm-hmm. And she tells Mary, she says, you know how they treat you in Chick-fil-A? Mary goes, yeah. She said, Mary, everybody out here treats you that way. Grocery store, Sam's Club, Walmart, and it's true. It's true. They don't sound like they're mimicking chicks. I've never had that kind of treatment in my life. How can I help you? We've been out 6 times in the last 2+ years. And it's a different mindset. It's a different culture. It's a city of about 1 million people. And our first trip out there, we're going downtown towards town for lunch. They live in Elkhorn, about 12 miles out of town, a little suburb. Anyway, we're going into town, and we're right down the interstate, like you would in Columbia or Atlanta or wherever. And it's 11 o'clock. And there's 1 million people. There's not much traffic on the interstate. And I said, Whitney, our daughter, I said, Whitney, I said, where's all the traffic? She said, Daddy, they're at work. 3% unemployment. Okay, I mean, it's different. But I share that with you. It takes leadership. It takes all of those things to be successful. We good? Let's take a break for a few minutes, and we'll mic up again. Stand up, coffee or tea or whatever's in the back. Restrooms up here, and I think down the hall as well. And then we'll come back and get on. When you come back, make a list of these words: who, what, where, when, why, how. It sounds like an English class. And put into what you think the top 2 of those should be used for doing anything. Of who, what, where, when, why, how. And if you don't get it, I'll say it again when you sit back down. World champion. Some of us do. Story goes that he's flying somewhere, gets on an airline. Obviously, he's in first class. They're getting ready to pull away from the gate. The stewardess walks by and said, Mr. Ali, would you fasten your seatbelt? And she goes on back and does some things, walks by a minute or 2 later as the plane's backing out and headed towards the runway, and walks by and said, Mr. Ali, would you fasten your seatbelt? And he's just sitting there. And a few minutes later, she comes back, and he still hasn't done it. She said, Mr. Ali, you need to fasten your seatbelt. He said, Superman don't need no seatbelt. She said, Superman don't need no plane. Fasten your seatbelt. Anyway, okay, the words who, what, where, when, why, how. What are the first 2 you need to look at or address? Because y'all are faced with those things, right? I mean, you got things you got to do. What are the first? What are the 2 most important? What are the first 2 you need to address? Who, what, where, when, why, how? Huh?
Who and when. We got to hire people.
Who and when? Huh? What? What? Yeah. Why is number 1. If you try to do it any other way, you can't pick the others effectively if you don't know why. And why? Let me ask you: have you done the mission statement introduction yet? Okay. Thank you, Bob. In a couple weeks from now, you'll see the new mission statement of National Golf Management. And the mission statement is the why, answers the why question. If you can answer the why makes sense of everything. For those of you who've got little kids that ask why, because I said so is not enough. Tell them. Let them know and understand. Now, sometimes they're trying to why and get out of stuff. But anyway, the why question. So mission driven is what a company is. And if they're not mission driven, the results, as it says there, are distorted focus, confusion, and chaos. People don't really know what they're about. I do mission statement development for companies, and I send out little surveys, and we did it for the leadership team, but I've done it for all employees or whatever, and you get some stuff back. One of them came back, it said, the primary reason we exist is to make a profit so I can get a raise. Okay? No, part of your job is to communicate the mission to the people with whom you work, to your team, to the ones that are in your area. There's a company in Atlanta that a friend of mine used to work for, and the guy, a couple hundred employees, and the owner would walk up to him and ask the employee what the mission of the company was, and if they could not recite it verbatim, they were fired on the spot. They know what it's about because it was communicated well to them. So you have to know it, and that'll be introduced in a couple weeks, and understand what it means and how it works, and then you begin to share it with other people. This is what we're about. This is why we exist every day. This is what we're about. And your mission statement will be unique to you. Number 2, values governed. If you're mission driven, then you become values governed. Your values create the culture in which you live, the values of the company or the organization. What does and it's not every word you ever heard. It's like 4 or 5 or 6 things that you truly, truly value in this company. They provide those standards. And without them, people have their own standards and there's incompatible behavior. And there's nothing magical about this, but there are some things that cause these 6 things to work. The third one is goals directed. Goals directed. That means that all the actions and activities are based on the goals, not just because, but goals directed. And we'll do goal setting so that you can have some better insights into that as well. Number 4 is systems operated. Systems operated. Effectiveness in an organization an effective organization has effective systems. And what happens to people oftentimes is they want to change the results and keep the same systems, and it won't work. So when you go to a fast food place and you drive up and you're talking to the little box and tell them you want a number 2 or number 3 or whatever the deal is, and you want extra whatever, they have created a system that will enable someone inside that fast food place to fix your order and hand it to you in about 3 to 5 minutes. They created a system that will do that. And some people say to me oftentimes, well, gosh, I don't think we have systems. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Systems are created as a result of anything you do habitually or regularly, and people will create their own systems. Now, your systems may not be effective. Jim, I got you up front, or you can have a notebook in the back. You're good. But an established routine in a way of doing something. Without that, they'd be inconsistent. I don't know if any of you seen the insides of fast food places back in the kitchen, the cooking area. They got pictures of how the burgers go together. They got pictures of how. Why? So if you get one here or if you get one in Los Angeles, it's the same thing. I got upset with on Highway 20 going over to Atlanta. The exit right as you come out of Aiken or whatever. Anyway, I swung in. I was actually going to Reynolds Plantation. I swung in to get a burger at the Hardee's. And I walked in and I said, I want extra mayonnaise. And the lady said, or I want mayonnaise on this. And the lady said, well, sir, we can't give you mayonnaise today. Our truck doesn't come till this afternoon. Okay. Now, I did like you. I laughed and I turned around and I said, there's a food line right across the street. They sell mayonnaise. And I shared that with someone a few months later. And they said, Pete, you don't understand. They would not allow them to go over there and buy mayonnaise, because the mayonnaise that they bought may not be consistent with the mayonnaise that they use, and they wanted their quality to be the same. And I went, oops, that one was on me. I didn't understand. I didn't understand. But without effective systems, it talks about their unpredictability, counterproductiveness. Well, I thought I was doing the right thing. 5 we'll spend time on team committed. Team committed. And there's a difference between a team mindset and a group mindset, and we'll talk about that. And everybody that says they're on a team are not necessarily on the team. But without that, we lack synergy, and there's a lot, as it says there's a lot of self-interest. I think we don't see as much team sports today for the generation today as we did in my generation. Right? Give one for the team. College football. And it spilled over into the pros as well. When Deion Sanders was playing for Florida State, and Deion ran it back 95 yards, what's the first thing Deion did when he got in the end zone? What did he do? Shuffle. And what did he do? This was before he even figured out how to do the shuffle. What would he do? Take off his chin strap and do what? Take off his helmet and turn around and look up at the stands. And that's now a violation. Okay, because the focus was on him, and that was the beginning of getting away from as much team as we think. And the last one is people performed. Performed by people who get it, who understand it, who know the mission, who understand the values, who understand the systems and the team and the goals and those types of things. And that begins with orientation. Questions or comments? Okay. This has been my opinion, Everything I've given you so far, for the most part, has been the truth. But the one at the top of the next page is from my opinion and experience. So I can't tell you this is 100% true, but I can tell you that for 25 years, I've come up with this. People are born with one of these three mindsets. One is no inclination, desire to lead or to manage. And I share that with you because you're going to fall, I think, into one of these three categories. In other words, from when they were a kid, doesn't mean that they can't do leadership and management. It just means that they were not born with that. I got one grandchild, and she was born with a tendency to lead or to want to lead. The second mindset is a mindset of leadership. Having more of a leadership mindset, understanding that that's kind of what it takes, and they see it and they get it. And the third one is a management or manager mindset. So I share that with you. As we go through this and you find yourself, well, I'm not really either one, okay, then your learning curve is twofold. If you're born more with a leadership mindset, then your learning curve is more on the manager stuff, and we'll talk about that. If your mindset is more on the manager mindset, then the leadership mindset. because you do have responsibilities of both, don't you? As we go into leadership, I didn't give you a blank for this, so you can write on the back of the page over beside it, not the next page, but just beside it. It's called types of leadership, and this comes up all the time, and I want to clarify for you. There's personal leadership. That means the leadership for yourself, the exercise that you do. What you do with your money, the investments you make. It's personal leadership, how you live your life, being a leader of yourself. The second is what I call term or assignment leadership. One of the clubs I speak to often meets in this room, so I've been up here a number of times to speak to them. And that is, you're going to be president of the Rotary for next year. Or you're going to be president of fill in the blank. Or you're going to fulfill a leadership role for usually a year, sometime maybe two. And when you're given that, normally what comes with that assignment or term is instructions, right? Here's a list. Call the meeting in order, make sure this person gets this, make sure you got a nominating committee for the next one coming up, whatever. That's assignment leadership. And the third one is becoming a leader. Becoming a leader. Personal leadership, that's a personal thing. How are you going to handle your diet? How are you going to spend your time? What kind of house you're going to live? All of that stuff is personal leadership. Assignment leadership is fulfilling that role and basically doing what they lay out for you to do. You're president of Sertoma Club for a year. Here's what it takes. Here's what you're supposed to do. But to become a leader, John Maxwell says it takes about 15 years actually to become a leader. Doesn't mean you have to wait. It's a process. It's a process of becoming. Questions or comments on that? I want to be clear. We're talking about the third one. We're talking about the third one. We're talking about you becoming a leader, because you don't just have this management job for 12 months. You've got it for now, and as long as you keep being effective with it and want it. So categories of leaders. Excuse me. The first category are wimps. Wimps. And wimps are unhealthy people who need everybody's approval to make a decision. By the way, if you're going to be effective as a leader and a manager, don't look to be popular. Don't look to be popular, because it doesn't come with that. And if you've got thin skin and can't handle the heat, don't get in it either, because it's tough, and sometimes people are not going to like you. But wimps, they're people that, I can't tell you the times that I've seen business owners. Well, what do you want to do? Well, we're going to call a meeting, and we're going to decide if we're going to have lunch at 12 or 12:30. Man, you own the company. Make the call. Okay? The second category I call dictators. Dictators. And dictators are unhealthy people who need to control everything. Dictators, unhealthy people who need to control everything. They're the my way, the highway people. They can only see it their way. They're not going to see it your way. And if you don't like it, go. And then the third are effective leaders. And the key to being an effective leader and manager for that matter is to realize that it's not about you. Effective leaders and managers know that it's not about them. It's about the mission. It's about the customers. It's about the team. They don't need all of that. Show me somebody that needs all the attention, all the accolades, and all the applause, and I'll show you somebody that's not effective. I love to see people that get up and go, in the book, one of the last ones there on servant leadership. Okay? The effective leaders are servant leaders. Okay? Is customer service important to National Golf Management? You know what one of the keys to customer service, good customer service is? Being a servant. If you're going to provide service, you have to be a servant. I'm a servant to you. I am. And you're a servant to each other. And you're a servant to and when we get that mindset, on the book, I can't remember the guy's name that wrote it. But anyway, it's called Servant Leadership, The Art of Servant Leadership. It's on your list. And he talks about you serve others so that they can serve you. You just got maybe a little bit bigger role in the deal. Okay? It's kind of like football. You get a back in the backfield at some college that's getting all the accolades and all the attention, and he walks around and going, I don't care, I can do it by myself. And you watch his line lay down on him on one game. He'll find out real quick. In the NFL, it's time after time from the quarterback to the running back. He goes, I take the offensive line out to dinner. I buy them Christmas presents. Why? Because they do their job, which enables me, which enables me to do mine. Clarity on that? Anybody need clarification on that? So they're wimps, dictators, and effective leaders. And the key is to be the effective one. To realize, any of you read the book 40 Days of Purpose? It was a study guide thing, like 40 Days of Lent or whatever, written by a guy named Rick Warren. And it's read this. Okay. It's got the best sentence I have ever seen in any book other than the Bible. The best. It's the first sentence. It's actually a paragraph, but it's one sentence long. And it says this. Starts out, first page, first chapter, first paragraph. It's not about you. It's not about you. Anytime you get that in your life, you're way ahead of the game. It's about you being part of something bigger than you. Your job's not about you. It's about you serving those local people. And if you get that, then you can communicate, their job's not about them. They don't do the grass for them. When I go in a store, and I'm not smart alecky and I don't pick on people, but it's just a fact. And they, sir, you're over in the sport coats, would you like to buy a sport coat? And I just say to the lady, and they're being nice. I said, well, I might, but I know one thing. And when I say I know one thing, they look at me and they go, what? And I go, you didn't buy them to keep. Okay? Y'all open the door each day for one reason and one reason only, and that's for the customer who comes in. And when they get the idea that I'm not doing this job for me or for you or for the company or somebody upstairs, I'm doing it for the person that pays me that's going to be here in a little while. I'm going to make it look better, feel better, sound better, smell better, taste better, whatever. Okay? Because it's not about me. And when we get the fact that it's not about us, life gets better. My life's not about me. My life is finding who I can serve and who I can help and who I can challenge and who I can equip and who I can encourage and all of those kinds of things. It's not about me. And that's what effective leaders do. We hear about Paul Revere often. What do we know about him, other than the fact he was a silversmith? What do we know about Paul Revere? Paul Revere did what? Do what? He could think, but what's he in the history books for? It's been more than 30 days. You've got 98 for what now? What? He did. Yeah, yelling the British are coming, right? So the people could prepare for that, so that the British wouldn't kill them. Let me ask you about another guy. A fellow named William Dawes, D-A-W-E-S. Anybody heard of him? I hadn't either till a few years ago. I read a book by Malcolm Gladwell called The Tipping Point, and he talks about this in the book. William Dawes was a friend of Paul Revere's. And Paul Revere and William Dawes, when they found out the British were coming, Paul Revere says, I'll go in this direction and yell the British are coming, and you go in the opposite direction to catch the other side of town and yell the British are coming. Well, why isn't William Dawes the hero that Paul Revere was? Okay? The reason was the people didn't think Dawes was competent. He was not a credible source. And I can use, this is my imagination, books don't tell you this, but it's called The Midnight Ride of Paul Revere, so I can imagine Paul Revere's on his horse, he's riding through town, yelling, the British are coming, the British are coming, and the people with the windows open, because they didn't have air conditioning and stuff. But anyway, the people with the windows open, and the wife says to the husband, what's that noise? Husband gets up, he looks out the window, he said, that's Paul Revere. He said, he's yelling, the British are coming. We better do something. And they did. William Dawes was yelling the same stuff, because they agreed to do the same message. And the wife wakes the husband up and said, what is that noise? There's that idiot Dawes out there. I don't know what he's doing. Something about the British are coming. Go back to bed. And people in Dawes's direction were killed by the British. And most of them survived in Paul Revere. So you have to be a credible source, which leads us to the four, what I've said, 4 C's. I used to do a whole page of them, but this four will wrap us up pretty good, I think. The first C is competent. Paul Revere was competent in the eyes of the other people, and William Dawes was not competent. Let me give you this just to write somewhere. It's 2 C's and 2 P's, and it's this. Competence leads to confidence. You can write it on the other page or just listen or whatever. Competence leads to confidence, which leads to performance, which leads to productivity. Competence leads to confidence, which leads to performance, which leads to productivity. So how do you become more productive? You perform better. How do you perform better? You have the confidence to do so. And where does that come from? That comes from the competency. I don't know what it's like for Tiger Woods or any of those guys that play on the PGA Tour to pull out a 7-iron and hit it 210 yards. I don't have that confidence to do that. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to do what they know how to do. But their competency level, they've been equipped, okay? Therefore, their confidence is up. Therefore, they can perform. Therefore, they're productive, okay? So the first one is competency. The second one is confident. Confident. People usually don't follow people that they don't think know what they're doing or are not confident. The third one is courage. Courage. You have to step out. You have to have the courage to make the decision. And when you make the decision, the courage to make the decision is to make it, some of you talked about something you don't like having it irritates you to have to terminate people, and that is never fun. I've had jobs where I've had to, and that is never fun. My wife went through breast cancer in 2001. She had 4 surgeries that year. Did we want to have 4 surgeries? No. Why do we have 4 surgeries? For the health of the body. Okay? And what we've had in our leadership through this country over the past almost 20 years is we keep electing people that do what we want, and they're not doing for the good of the whole. They're just doing for individual groups or whatever. And the third one is committed. Committed. So competent, confident, have the courage, and to be committed. Now, there is a difference between being committed and being concerned. Being committed and being concerned. We're getting ready to start on that. This is right at the bottom of that one, Kathy. There you go. We're courage on that one. I do some work with churches as well. It's called Ministry Matters, and I do work with other organizations, nonprofits, and those kinds of things. And maybe you've served on some of those areas. And there is a difference between committed people and concerned people. True? Yeah. Let me tell you what concerned people do. Concerned people want to meet and talk about it. And they want to meet and talk about it. And they want to meet and talk about it some more. And they want to meet and talk about it some more. And they're real concerned. They're real concerned, be it the homeless, the helpless, the whoever is. Okay? And they just talk about it and talk about it and talk about it and talk. We just need to do another study. We need to do another survey. We need to find out some more information. We need to find out some more of that. And that's still going on. Yeah, it is. Committed people act. And concerned people don't like committed people. And committed people don't like concerned people. Well, if you do something, then what are we going to meet on? Well, we're going to find something else. Okay? Got a lot of people that are concerned, and you see and hear about it all the time. Well, let's just have another meeting. We're concerned about that stuff. You do anything about it? No, we're concerned about it. You know, I'm real concerned that I take my putter outside on the backswing. You do anything about it? No, but I'm real concerned about it. I'm not going to get any better. I'm not going to get any better. Questions or comments? Okay, into some leadership, and I think you'll find out where your mindset is if you don't already know as we go through this next page. It says, my role in this business includes leadership, and you have a leadership role. You wear both hats. And one or two of you ask, how do I find the balance between, by the way, I've got all those. I'll give them to you before we leave today. How do we find the balance between leading and managing? How do I find the balance between when I'm supposed to be a leader and when I'm supposed to be a manager? And this will address and cover that. Effective leadership is the ability to influence others, to follow the mission, values, goals, and plans. It's the ability to influence. And effective management is the ability to influence others, to implement them. One is buy-in, and the two is action. And I know you've heard the story before. There are five birds sitting on a power line. 5 birds sitting on a power line. 2 decide to fly away. How many's left? No, 5. They only decided. They didn't move. Okay, just a little play on that commitment thing. But the implementation. And influence is gained in 2 ways. One is power. And power comes with the job title. Power comes with the job title. How many of you here beside me were in the military? Been in the military. I mean, if somebody outranks you and told you what to do, get off 15 if you don't do it. I mean, if it's within the realms of what you're supposed to be doing, right? Why are you doing that? Sergeant Reynolds, why are you doing that? Because Captain so-and-so said I was supposed to do it. Okay? Outright. It comes. So by virtue of the fact that you lead and manage people, you have power. You can reward, promote, write them up, fire them, whatever. Go forward, try to get them a raise. Okay? You have power. The second way that influence is gained is that it is earned. And it's earned based on who you are and how you treat other people. My guess is, to include me, there's probably not a person here who hasn't worked for someone somewhere along the way that the only reason you did what he or she said was because they had power. I worked for a guy like that one time. If I rode down the road and I saw him on the side of the road out of gas, I just yelled, good luck, okay? Come on, I didn't like the guy. I didn't. But there are other people that I've worked for that because of the way that they handled themselves, the respect that they had for them, and the way that they treated other people, they could call me and say, Petesy, I need some gas, and I would go do it, not because they had power, but because they had earned that influence over me. Okay? And as it says there, effective leaders and managers have and use both. Have and use both. Any of you ever, well, I won't put you on the spot, but there was a saying a long time ago, and it's still around, I think, that I want to be my child's best friend. Or my child tells me everything. Okay? My mother died about 6 years ago. I can tell you, my wife, my mother, my best friend, I have never told anybody everything. Have you? You might think they're telling you more than the other child told you, but I can tell you, anybody ever tell their parents everything? Oh, let me tell you everything. No, my mother died not knowing everything. Didn't want her to. Didn't want her to. By the way, we'll get into personality types the next time, and we might talk a little bit about generations. But we were born on the same planet, but in different worlds when it comes to generation type. Okay. Any of you have children, or were any of you told time out. Any of you ever get put in time out when you were little? No. Any of you got time out for your children? Okay. Oh, I grew up in the wrong time. My parents didn't have time out. They had time up. And I can tell you time up took action. I don't love time up. Okay, Pete, so you're going to be in time out. Okay, good. I like that. But anyway, there's a difference here. Having used both. There's 6 differences I want you to have about a leadership mindset and a management mindset. I was called by a company in Greenville a couple years ago, and they said, we're having a retreat at Myrtle Beach with our managers, and I said, we want team building. And I said, why? Well, our owner is driving our managers crazy. And I said, what are you doing? They were in the medical supply business, and he goes to all these medical conventions around the country, and just about the time that they get all the stuff priced and how we're going to ship them and where they're going to go and the system to do it, he walks in with a whole bunch of other stuff, and we need some team building. I said, no, you need some leadership management training, because your owner is a leader and your managers are managers. And that'll be clear for you as we go through this. I'll comment on that again some more in a moment. But the leadership role, number 1 is big picture, long-term focus. Big picture, long-term focus. And the management role is small picture, short term. Number 2, the leadership role is to determine direction. We're going over there. We're going that way with this. We're going this way with that. And the management role is to develop the how-tos to get there. And if you are of the leadership mindset or the management mindset, one of those comes easier to you than the other one. True? How many of you see that just in knowing 2 of them, how many of you see that's kind of how I think from the leadership side? Go ahead, raise your hand from the leadership side. Okay, got a couple. How many of you from the management side? You kind of think that way. Okay. Number 3, the leadership focuses on growth and change. And you can put beside that or under that, creates chaos. And management focuses on implementation and consistency. And what you got with that is creates order. So if you're of the management mindset, you just finally want to get it so it runs smooth. If you're the leadership mindset, running smooth isn't a deal. Let's get better. Okay? Now how many of you find yourself on the leader side more? Anybody new on board? And how about on the management side more? Yeah, okay. And for an organization to be effective, it has to have some of both. And that's what was wrong with this medical supply people. The guy knew it as soon as I talked to the lady. The guy was a leader, and his managers were managers. And he kept bringing this stuff in, and they go, you know, it can't be like, I read a story about a plant factory over in England, and they made grease. They made grease. And it was renowned for its cleanliness, for its effectiveness, for its efficiency. I mean, everything was running smooth. They didn't have down days. They had happy employees. And so some people from America went over and said, we got to go see what these people are doing. And so they go over there and they take them through the plant, and they just, it's just perfect. I mean, it's just, things are running smooth, things are running quiet, the people are smiling, the people are happy. And finally the people from America said, how much grease do you make? And they said, just enough to keep our machines going. Okay, some people just do enough to stay internal. Leadership is going external. I mean, gosh, in the golf equipment industry, and there's got to be a lot of leaders. There's got to be the only thing that has been greater in perpetrating things on the American people than the golf industry now was the car business. When Henry Ford first started making cars, it wasn't a 19 blank, it was I made these cars. And then somebody said, let's give them a year and tell them the new one's coming out. My son bought some Pro V1 golf balls from the store, PGA store over there, and he called me. He said, Pops, he said, just bought some more golf balls. I said, really? I said, how much? He said, $39 a dozen. I said, son, I thought they were 48 or 49. He said, well, these are last year's. We're now doing years of golf balls? We are. Oh, by the way, I found out what the difference is. Any of you know? And they're still selling last year's golf. We got, oh, no wonder you're not playing well. You're playing with last year's balls. I don't know. Anyway, but there is a difference. The what? Other than the fact that we think, but there's a real difference. Any of you know what color the inside of a Pro V1 is? No? Purple. It's purple. That's the old models. Do you know what color the new ones are? No, they're yellow. Yeah, they're yellow. I don't know if they're any different, but they're yellow. And we got, oh, those clubs over there, those are last year's clubs. We got to get some new ones. They got to have some leadership at the top going, let's keep pumping them out there. Okay, do you want last year's driver or do you want this year's driver? Now, I know technology changes, and a lot of it is technology, no doubt about that. Okay. Number 4, leadership is inspiring and motivating. And the manager's role is controlling and problem solving. And when I talk about controlling, I mean in a good, healthy way. Controlling and making sure that things are running smooth. And number 5, the leader role is to monitor where we're going and the progress we're making. Where we're going. How far do we get today? And the manager's role is to monitor how are we doing. What I wanted to do with that, and what I do with that, is to give you a picture of each, because you've got both responsibilities. Now, if you work for General Motors, they got floors of leaders, and they got floors of managers. And they don't have to wear, but any organization short of IBM or GM or what, anything short of big corporate, you got to have both, and you got to know when to do. And one probably comes a little bit easier to you than the other. So how do you know when to switch hats? How do you know? Well, we'll talk about it at the top of the next page. And it's this. You handle leadership issues first. You handle leadership issues first at the top of the next page. And obviously you address management issues and questions second. You're sitting around, you're having a meeting with your people, regardless of there are 4 people in your department or 10 or whatever the number is, and you're sitting there and you go, well, what do you think about doing that, or this, or changing so-and-so? That is a leadership question. Let's talk about maybe doing this. Let me tell you a management response. We don't have the manpower. We don't have the money. We don't have the resources. That's not the point. Let me give you the example I've used for a long time. Leadership question. What about if we paint all of our golf carts chartreuse? Leadership question. Management answer. I don't think they make chartreuse paint. Didn't address the question, did it? Okay, what do you think? Now, if you sit down for a few minutes and in 15 minutes you decide that's a bad idea, leadership first, you're still at leadership, that's a bad idea, then does it matter whether they make chartreuse paint or not? No, we're not even going to do it. Okay? Likewise, if you decide you want to do it, does it matter whether they make it or not? No, because you can find somebody who will. Always address the leadership stuff first. But if you have a leader mindset, don't overlook or don't not answer the management question. But a lot of times what holds a company and organization back with the leadership and management people is they get stuck on we don't have. We don't even know if we want to do yet or not. Let's find out if we want to. Then we can figure out how or if or when we can. Questions, comments? Somebody give me some kind of feedback along those lines. An example. I don't care. No? Nothing comes to mind? Let me ask you another way. Have you found yourself in meetings when one issue, one side or the other, did not get addressed properly? If you're human, you have. Leadership. And the next thing you know, you ask this leadership question, and the next thing you know, you're off somewhere in left field. Well, it'll take 14 years for us to get enough money or enough people in here to get that done. Well, 14 years passes, and you get enough people and you get enough money, and then you decide you don't want to do it. Okay? That's a crazy example, and I know that. But anyway. Anybody? Anything? Boy, this is quiet. Y'all must be soaking this up. Y'all must be soaking this up really well. Okay. Effective leaders and managers do a couple things. Well, about everybody got some of this? Somebody told me it was good for everything. Somebody even told me once that you could, if you got bad knees, you could spray it on your knees and it would literally make you, anybody know that? I mean, I've had people, I've heard it too. And when I first... Ask him again, Jim. Did you Google it? No, but somehow, and when I first heard that this is good for everything, I sprayed some on my golf clubs. Didn't help a bit. Anyway, okay. WD-40. For what does the WD stand? Well, what does WD mean? WD stands for what? Water. Water disbursement. Okay. Why 40? Do what? Because the 39 didn't work. You're exactly right. Ladies and gentlemen, the people that started the Rocket Chemical Company in the 1950s, the very first thing they did was to define success. Leaders and managers define success. They said, we want something that will lubricate and disperse water. Before they ever started trying to make it, they defined success. And the reason it's WD-40 is because those first 39 didn't produce it. By the way, had they produced it earlier, it would say WD-27. And had it come later, we'd be buying WD-51 or whatever the number was. Leaders and managers define success. At most of your golf courses, if somebody's going to come play today, do they get free range balls, or do they have to pay $3 or $4 or $5 for them or whatever? Do what? Depends on where you. So you got some courses that they pay for the range balls, right? So what's the price of range balls at some of your courses? How much? $5. Okay, and if they're going to pay $5 for that today, what's the green fee for them today? $44. So here's the deal. This person comes to your golf course, and he's going to pay you $44 to go play on your dirt, your course. But he's got to play his balls. He's got to buy them. He's got to brought them Pro V1s or whatever he's playing with. Okay, he's got to bring his golf balls. But for $5, he can get golf balls that you had to buy, that the company had to buy, and go over to the same dirt over here. It's acreage. Come on, it's acreage. And he gets to hit for $5, and they're not even his. And he don't have to go pick them up or find them. Okay? I don't get it. The land was still $100,000 an acre, right? And you got a couple acres over there for the thing, and this acreage over here. Okay? I don't. Why? Why? Come on. Does that make sense to y'all? You give me your golf balls that you bought, and you got to go find and play. Not only that, when I wear them out, you got to go buy some more. I don't. And I can do that for $5.
Get off the golf industry. You ever live in New Jersey?
No.
Pay taxes, right? I drive up and down that interstate, but they stuck a toll 7 times between the south and the north end. Why am I paying the toll to drive on a road I helped build?
Because they can.
You just answered your question.
Yeah. But that's good, Jim, because you can. But here's the real answer. Here's the real answer. The driving range has no success. The golf course has success. You have set up the golf course and said, this is a par 4. And people will pay once somebody defines success. The driving range, you just whack them around. Bam, bam, bam. How you doing? Good, I guess. You don't keep score on the golf course. And we'll talk about that when it comes to goals. I mean, tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, if there wasn't a goal line at Williams-Brice, then 85,000 people wouldn't show up at an average of $50 a ticket. Because nobody shows up when you can't keep score. And if you can't keep score, nobody can be successful. That's called practice. And a couple thousand might show up for practice, but they didn't buy a ticket. Okay? So defining success in a short-term assignment or in a long-term assignment is up to you. Is up to you for that. Okay. The second one is leaders and managers define reality. They define reality. They're not like Chicken Little. If you remember the story of Chicken Little, and an acorn hit him in the head and he thought the sky was falling. So he runs around yelling at everybody, sky's falling, sky. No, an acorn hit you in the head. Okay? They put things in proper perspective. They put things in proper perspective. When I can't find words that I like, I make them up. So the next two words I made up. So if you type them in, it'll redline it. Okay? Number one is they don't awfulize. Awful, I-Z-E. That is, they don't make things worse than they are. And the second word is they don't grandize. Grand, I-Z-E. They don't make things better than they are. Lou Holtz, when he was coaching at South Carolina, he said this, and he was saying this, but not in my words, but he said, you know what, at South Carolina, when we win, we're not as good as everybody thinks we are. And when we lose, we're not as bad. Now, if you go back to your department, well, you won't today probably. How many of you going back to check on things? Some of you going back. If you go back and something's gone wrong, okay, a pipe broke or this happened or that happened, by human nature, people will begin to awfulize. They'll tell you how bad it is. Oh, we're doing this and we're doing that. And an effective leader or manager walks in and puts it in proper perspective. It's not as bad as you say that it is. We'll call a plumber, we'll get it fixed, we'll do whatever. Share a me story with you. We remodeled our house a few years ago, and I ended up having to get a couple different people to finish the job. Not the original guy I hired. Matter of fact, he passed away. But anyway, I had a guy out doing some work for me on Saturday. And I'd gone somewhere to get some more stuff for him and his crew to do some work. And I pull up in my driveway, and my cell phone's ringing. And I see that it's my wife. Well, I'm 50 feet from walking into the house, so I get out of the car and I walk in the house. Got a wonderful wife. We've been married for 40 years, love her to death. But she's going, can you smell it? Can you smell it? Can you smell it? The dishwasher burned up. The dishwasher burned up. Can you smell it? And I go, yeah. Is everything okay? Yes, it's unplugged, but it burned up. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? I said, I'm going to go buy another one because that's no good. I'm not going to go sue the guy's estate. I'm not going to dig him up. I said, where do you want to go to lunch? She went, I said, but it's no good. We'll go to Lowe's. We'll pick one out. They'll deliver it. They'll take the old one out. They'll stick it in there. Now, was that the thing I wanted to do that day? No. But my house didn't burn down. Guy called me the other day. He said, Pete, you're not going to want to hear what I'm about to say. This might be hard for you to hear. I said, let me put that in perspective for you. I said, you call and tell me one of my family members got killed in a car wreck. I said, that's hard for me to hear. If it's not that hard, bring it on. I got it. I can handle it. Okay? But keeping things in proper perspective of it's bad, but it's not that bad. It's good, but it's not that good. Okay? That's what effective leaders and managers do. They define success and they keep things in perspective. Okay? Any Clemson fans? Any Clemson fans here? Good. Huh? Got a brave man. Got a brave man in the back. Tell me about the game tomorrow night or the game Saturday night. Come on. What? Huh? Thank you, because of all my friends who are Clemson fans, and our son's godparents are both Clemson fans and love them to death, but you're the only one that gave me what I think is a real answer. It's going to be a good one, and it is going to be a good one. Most of them say Clemson wins. Because what happens to Clemson, and I only pick on them because it happened to us at the University of South Carolina for years, we couldn't keep winning in a proper perspective. We won one game, think we're going to the Orange Bowl. You only won one? I can't tell you I'm serious. One time we threw oranges out on the field after the first game. And I don't think we won about 2 more games the rest of the year. Or march out in the stadium because we won, yelling, we're number one. I mean, I was right with the crowd. That's not right. That's not good. That's not effective. That's not effective. Do what?
It's like hurting birdie on the first hole.
Yeah, I birdied the first hole. Yeah, I got this now. Yeah.
What's that rooster with them South Carolina things? That rooster?
The Gamecock?
No, but I mean when they start winning, then they curse of the rooster or whatever.
What? No, that was
The chicken?
yeah, the chicken curse.
Yes.
Well, that ended when Lou Holtz left. The chicken curse did, because you really didn't understand it, and I didn't understand it either until after Holtz left. But there's a chicken place over, and it's not Bojangles. It's an independently owned chicken place over on Bluff Road. Okay, and what is it? Somebody say it? Anyway, it's great fried chicken. They must be frying chicken for 2 days because it is in the lines out the door, and so is Bojangles down the street. But anyway, what happened when Holtz was there? Our guys coming on the bus and get to the stadium, and they're going and they're getting ready to dress, right? I mean, that's what they do. In the sirens, and they get in there and get ready to dress. Our players that already had the pregame meal were taking the golf cart, going out of the stadium across the street and buying fried chicken 45 minutes before the game. That's the chicken curse. That is a curse. Anyway, we don't do that. We don't do that anymore. Okay. Some E's and some E's for leading and managing, and some M's for leading and managing. The first E stands for equip. You have to equip your people or see that they're equipped. Have you ever hired somebody, or somebody new came in your department or whatever, that for the most part it's a new hire, that says he or she could do this, and you watch them for a little while and you go, huh? Okay. Some of them are saying they thought we did it, or we did it this way over here, but not to your liking. So you have to equip them. The second E stands for edify, and edify simply means to build them up. The third E stands for empowerment, to give them the power to act and react. Read a book a number of years ago. It may be on your list, I'm not sure. The title of it is, I think it is, Empowerment Takes More Than a Minute. Okay, you empower your people to do their job. That is, you don't micromanage them. You give them parameters and guidelines and let them go. And in the little book, Empowerment Takes More Than a Minute, he said, a river without banks is called a flood. Okay, so you set the parameters and guidelines and let them go to work. Number 4 is expect. Expect. For those of you who have children, for the most part, they will live up to your level of them, your level of expectation for them. Research says this, that many of the men that are in prison are there because a parent said, you keep doing that, you're going to kill somebody, you're going to go to jail. You keep doing, what was it? They got, anybody remember Louis Grizzard? Louis Grizzard was the forerunner to Jeff Foxworthy. He actually died. I was getting ready to point to Bob. He was living at Reynolds Plantation when he died a number of years. But he was that kind of redneck comedian guy. And I heard him speak one time, and he said this. He said, well, I guess I'm never going to be happy. And he paused, so we'd think, well, what does he mean by that? He said, I used to like to play with knives when I was little. He said, and my mother would yell at me, Louis, You're not going to be happy till you put somebody's eye out with that knife. He said, I never put anybody's eye out. I don't know. It just convoluted. But it's that kind of thing. We will live up to someone else's expectations. Okay? And so will your people. You expect them to do better, they'll do better. And the E stands for encourage. Encourage. I love the story that the guy was driving home from work one afternoon. He saw a Little League game going on. He thought he'd pull over and watch it for a little bit. So he pulls over, he gets out of his car, he walks up, and there's this little guy standing in the corner of the dugout, and he looks at the scoreboard out there, and the scoreboard is 8-0. And he looks down at the little kid. He said, who's got the 8? The little kid said, they do. He said, man, you must be feeling pretty bad. The little kid said, no, I'm not. We hadn't batted yet. Okay? I love that attitude and that encouragement. Okay, wait till we get up and show them what we can do. All right, to encourage. Then there are some M's. The first M stands for model. You have to model what you want done. They're going to take their cues from you. They're going to do what you do, and they won't do what you don't do. I was working with New South, they're used to be about a $500 million company over here, and they also have a plant over in Camden. And I went over to the plant in Camden, and I went over there to work with some management people as well. This was, 10 years ago before it sold. And so I walked up, and they got this, 30 or 40 acres of land, and they got all the cutting and the trucks to come in. And they got this, it looked small. It wasn't. It just happened to be sitting out in the wide open spaces where their office was, and their training rooms and all that kind of stuff, and accounting. And so I walk up, and I get out of the car, and I just look, and there's a wrapper from McDonald's just kind of blown up against little hedges that they had around the building, and there was a Coke can, and there was a cup, and it was just some debris laying around. I didn't pay much attention to it. And I went back like 3 times, once a week for 3 weeks, and I went back, and each time I would see just kind of clutter there. About 4 or 5 years later, they hired me again because they had changed managers over there, and I go to the same place, pull up, and it is neat as a pin. Well, some of the same people were in the class that were there before. I said, I didn't say anything, but last time there was just kind of some trash laying around out there. And this time, what happened? I said, did y'all's new manager tell you that you had to pick up everything? I mean, if y'all hired a cleaning crew, whatever. They go, no, Petesy, none of that stuff happened. I said, well, what happened? They said, Daniel, our new manager, when he came to work, he just picked the stuff up. When he'd walk by it, he'd just pick it up. I said, did he tell y'all to pick it up? He said, no. He said, we just saw him picking it up, so we started picking it up. Okay? Never said a word. Everybody there picks up the trash. And I can't tell you the number of places I've been where I've seen leaders and managers and owners step over stuff and tell somebody else to pick it up. That's power. That's not earned anything in that. You've been down and start doing it, and they'll do it. They'll do it. We have grown children now, and if you want to know your parenting effectiveness, you watch what they do and say. If you think they were funny when they were little, it's not so funny when they get older and they do things exactly like you did, but to model. The second M stands for mentor. You got to bring them along. You got to bring them along. And mentoring is coaching, and it's helping them and that kind of stuff. I realized watching golf on TV, golfers have coaches, right? I mean, if they play, and who doesn't? What's his name? Left-handed guy, Bubba Watson. Bubba doesn't have a coach, and there's one more that doesn't have a coach. They were talking to him the other day. But anyway, and Furyk looks like he had a bad one. But anyway, but Furyk can hit the ball. Furyk can hit the ball. But I realized while Bubba doesn't have a coach, he does have a coach. It's called his caddy. His caddy's out there coaching him. This is how far. This is what I think. Let me bounce some stuff off of you. Let you help me. Let me mentor you through this thing. Anybody surprised that Adam Scott won last week if you watched it? Probably got one of the best coaching caddies that's out there, I think. Whether you like him or not, whether I like him or not, it doesn't matter. But to mentor and bring them along. The third thing is to monitor. You have to monitor things. Goes back to people don't pay attention, people stop caring. You have to monitor and watch. And y'all got some, I know you've got some of the things. How are we doing in relation to how we think we're doing? Sometimes in the fall, I watch TV on the radio. I watch football games on the radio. Okay, and by that I mean I'm up and running around. I got 2 or 3 places to go, and sometimes I do convention openings on Saturday mornings and that kind of stuff. But anyway, and I get in the car and I turn it on, and they'll say, and the ball's on the 25, and I'm going, who's 25 and who's got it? Don't just tell me the ball's on the 25. Okay, I want to know who and where. Monitor, monitor. And when you monitor, number 4 is you can measure. If you don't monitor, it's hard to kind of measure. How are we doing as compared to what? And the last one is modify. Make the changes in the adjustments that you need to make. Questions or comments on what we've covered so far today? We've got a couple more things to do. Just and Benita will have some of these. Just pass them. The first group on the page, the highest of the 4 numbers. Nobody? Had a couple. Okay. How about the second group was the highest? Okay. How about the third group was the highest? How about the fourth group? Okay. Here's what I want you to do, and I'm not going to, anyway. If you had the highest of your scores in either the first or the second group, come stand over here. And if you had the highest in the second and the third or the fourth, go stand over there. A tie between which ones? No, I don't need to see that. I just need to shake your hand. I see. Okay. You go to the slow one.
I go to the slow group?
Yeah.
Which one is that?
Over here is second group, first and second. Over here, and what do you have?
Well, I tied on the first group and the fourth group are the 2 highest.
Let me shake your hand. I'll tell you where you need to go.
Huh?
How's that okay?
Yeah, you can shake my hand, but where do I go?
Okay. You go over there.
All right.
Okay. Wow. Wow. Okay, this is the group that had the highest in the first and second. Wow. I have spoken entirely too fast for y'all today, haven't I? Huh? I go fast, right? And you're going, he needs to slow down, right? This crowd over here is wondering, why did I have to fill this in? If he'd have given us to fill this thing out already, we'd have been out of here. I'll read it right down the road, right? Wow, this is what would you maybe say to this group? Kind of what might help that group for those of you who know them without pointing the finger at any one person? Why do they go so fast at everything? They do, don't they? They just going bam, 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 bam. Yeah, look over there. Why do they go so slow? Have you ever noticed how slow they are? I mean, they just kind of deliberate, and we're going to take a step, we're going to do this, and what are you saying?
You're making this too hard.
Okay. Let me ask you this question since you're standing there. For those of you who A, have been married, B, are married, or C, or going, whatever all that stuff that they say is now, okay, how many of you are attracted to or married to or whatever someone that goes fast when most of the time you go slow? How many of you most of, what is wrong with them? Okay? Most people marry opposites. They just do. And how about y'all? What about the spouses over here that get
I already told them I married my polar opposite.
Yeah, and it's just slow and deliberate.
Actually, no, that's not totally true here. No, I'm speaking for myself.
Okay.
You're right. Okay, my wife's the opposite. But in this case, okay, we have fast, and then we have faster.
Fast and fast. Oh, it is fun.
Slow, okay?
Do y'all have children?
But it's
Well,
happening.
get- Okay. Sit back down. Sit back down.
You're faster. She's faster.
I don't know if that was revealing at all to you, but it was to me. Now I know why I've got some of the expressions that I've gotten today. I mean, I better understand it. That's not good. That's not bad. You can go down with the little line that's on the left-hand side over there, and at the top one, at the top of the page, write doves. The second one, write owls. Doves. The second group are owls. Third group would be peacocks. And the fourth group would be eagles. Doves, owls, peacocks, and eagles. What, Kathy?
I went to this speech probably 15 years ago. We were talking about it at the start of the meeting and having this conversation, and Jim went through it too. And at the time, I believe Jim was an eagle. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that that's the category he fell in.
Didn't change.
It didn't change. I, on the other hand, was a peacock. And my husband has told me repeatedly, every once in a while you open your mouth and Jim Woodring comes out. And unfortunately, my score is an eagle. Not unfortunately, just I said to him earlier, I wonder if it's changed over the years.
Let me ask you this. How many of you had scores that were kind of close together? Good. Yeah. Tell me what you thought about that when you had them kind of close together. What were your thoughts? Good, bad, don't know enough to ask? Don't know. What that normally denotes is one of two things. One is that what didn't come natural to you, you have learned and you have become more well-rounded. Okay? The other one is, show me a show of hands of ones that had them real close together again. Let me see.
Just two.
No. Well, of all four. Let's go with all four. No, I'm not seeing what I'm looking for. Okay. How many of you had the highest in the third group? Nobody was highest in the third? No? That surprised me a little bit. My reason for saying that is this. The people who have the highest group in the third group always score themselves real high in the other group because they think they're everything. I'm that. I'm not. No, you're not, but I could be. Anyway. Kathy, why are you laughing so loud?
Because that's very
Okay. One of the shortcomings, I think, in a lot of leadership, management training, communication training, and those types of things is they're predicated on the fact that we're all the same and we're not. Okay. Any of you ever played golf? And I haven't in years. Played in a golf tournament where it was a one-club tournament. All you could play was one club, but you got to pick whichever one. What did you choose when you played? 6 iron. And so you kind of was the middle of the road, but the guy with the driver was knocking it way past you off the tee, but he was no good around the green, right? Okay. What happens to us sometimes is we look for one way to manage, one way to lead, one way to communicate, and it's like playing in a one-club tournament. What this is about is to realize what and who you're dealing with. Okay, it's not a cop-out. It's not an excuse. It's not that kind of stuff. Obviously, bring your notebooks the next time, and we will move on with that. You'll find out more about yourself. You'll find out more about the people with whom you work, and the key is you'll find out how to lead, motivate, and manage those folks, and what their natural strengths are and what their natural weaknesses are, because we've all got strengths. We've all got strengths and weaknesses. Okay. All right. Questions on that so far? We'll spend the majority of our time on personalities next time, and maybe get into some team building. This is the feedback that you gave me. It is somewhat incomplete by that. I mean, I received one late, and then I saw where one fell in the cracks near my computer. So I'll bring those the next time. The other thing is I give them out. There were some things that y'all gave me feedback on that was not within the realm of what I was covering here. So I have made an extra list of those, and they will go to corporate. I think maybe they already have some degree, Benita, gone to corporate to be addressed there. Again, it was anonymous. Thank you for doing it. Didn't care who said what. Just if you had it on your mind, it needed to go there. The asterisks that you see are because it was said more than one time. Maybe not exactly the way you said it, but it was said. These don't have holes in it, so you can just stick them in the side. This is what you say about you. And it's great to start out with. I think it is. It's great to start out with, I don't know how many that is. 3, 4, 5. Is that right? Yeah, we're good. The things that you like and the things that you do well. There's a notebook up front of you.
Yeah, I came in late. I was running.
Yeah, but grab one anyway. You going?
Yeah.
You got one?
No, I don't have one.
Is this?
I'll take that one.
If somebody's written in it, there's clean ones up front. And I want to comment on a few of these, but then I'll give you the rest of them so that you can give them to whoever's not here. Much of what you talked about, we're going to cover. If I can find mine, I had some of it redlined. Yeah. And you can ask a question or comment on a couple of them. On the first page, training and developing managers and staff, that's great. When you can train and equip other people, that's just super. And part of being a leader and manager is to train. Leaders and managers teach, they train, they equip, they read, they work to get better so that they can help others get better as well. About halfway down the page, it has having very little turnover. You like that. I don't know if you know it or not, but being in a company and being concerned about the success of the company, turnover today is huge. For turnover to occur at a fast food place, the cost to the organization is $1,500. Just to turn over there. The cost of winding down, interviewing, replacing, bringing them up to speed, orienting, and those kinds of things, getting them on the books, etc. It's just huge. Team building and team leadership, we'll talk about that more, so that should enhance, maybe give you some insights there. I loved whoever put free golf down. There's nothing wrong with that. That's what the question was. What do you like? Free golf, it's okay. Down under that, trying to gel all sorts of personality types. I love whoever. I never thought about gelling them, but I have thought about kind of knowing and understanding them. Thinking big picture wise, right under that one, at the top of the column to the right, delegating responsibility, and we'll talk about that. I don't know who put down cooking, but I can kind of guess. I can kind of guess who put down cooking. I like that. Leading by example is the most effective way. It's the most effective way to lead, and that is by example. Again, about halfway down. Oh, by the way, on the other page, right under greeting customers with the asterisks, I love my company. Gosh, why would you work for somewhere that you didn't really love and like? I mean, I love that honesty. Being a good communicator, we can always improve. We can always improve in our communication skills and abilities. Asterisk about 3/4 of the way down the page, motivating and encouraging people. Wow, I mean, it's just something. There just has to be a satisfaction level at coaching, and be it baseball, football, tennis, whatever, to see someone go out and perform and execute the way that you taught them to, encouraged and trained them and equipped them to do, and you walk off the field going, "We want." I mean, that's for the people that are in coaching. That's almost got to be addicting to them. I mean, you just go, "Wow, we prepared and we did it." The same should be true, I think, for you. Working for common goals, right under that, helping others grow and improve. Does everybody want to grow and improve? And I don't mean everybody in here. I mean everybody that you know that you work with. No. When I first started Actions and Attitudes 25 years ago, I had an assumption that took me about 5 years to come to the reality of. I assumed that everyone who was in business and or had a business wanted to make their business better. It took me about 5 years to realize that was not true. That was not true. Got a friend of mine who plays with a group that travels up into the mountains of North Carolina a couple times a year. They've been doing it for 20 or maybe even 30 years. And I ran into him about a year ago, and I said, when y'all go up oh, we got a committee that puts together the teams so that they can't put together their own teams and all that kind of stuff. And I said to him, do they get full handicaps? And he goes, yeah. I said, like really high? He goes, yeah, Dr. So-and-so, and I knew the guy, Dr. So-and-so has a 27. I go, well, he must not play very often. He plays twice a week. I go, he must not have been playing very long. He goes, 30 years. How do you play twice a week for 30 years and have 27? I couldn't live with 27. I'd do something. I don't. Huh? You're right. He is making money. He is making money. I missed that one. Okay. But anyway, things you do well. The challenge, teaching and training. Oh, by the way, where it says baking up management, that should be backing up management. Thank you. I missed it. Never thought about baking up management. The asterisk down there, listening, effective delegation. And what you'll find as you go through and look at these, I want to comment on a few more of them, is that some of the things that you do well and some of the things that you like, maybe some of the same things with other people that irritate them, or some of the same things that they want to know more about. I've been doing this for years, and that's usually the case. Getting people to work as a team, being the fifth one down on the column on the right, being part of a new company. That's some adjustments, isn't it? We're going to talk about change and leading and managing through change, and regardless of your attitude, regardless of whatever, merging two companies together, that's tough. We were used to doing it this way, and now we're doing it that way. I was a banker way back when, and when banks are sold, they walk in and tell you, we just bought your bank. And rest assured, ladies and gentlemen, because I've said in those meetings before, rest assured, ladies and gentlemen, we're not going to change anything. That is a big lie. In a year's time, everything got changed. Okay? And I'm not saying that applies to you, but what I'm saying to you is it's the combination of the two, and those two cultures coming together, and this, I think, should help that to some degree. Paperwork, somebody likes it, somebody doesn't. Things that irritate me. Things that irritate me. Employees that don't follow instructions. But right under that one it says favoritism. And my sense is that's favoritism to a fault. Because come on, folks, I don't care what you say, and I don't care what you do, and I don't care if your halo even came in. We don't like everybody the same. Doesn't mean they should get favorites, but we just got some people we like a little better than we like other people. And that's okay. I'm satisfied that the Baltimore Ravens, world champion Baltimore Ravens, all those people don't go to everybody else's house for dinner. All their kids don't play with other team players' kids. Some of them get along better than others, and that's okay. But favoritism to a fault is not okay. Giving one a pass while not giving the other one a pass, not okay. Okay? Finding the right balance, we talked about that some. Having to terminate an employee. I like about midway through the page, iPads, cell phones, etc. should be restricted. And I could make a case for that for you, but let me tell you, for the younger generation, and I'm not picking on y'all who are in the younger generation, you take iPads and cell phones from them, they don't know what to do. I mean, because that's what they grew up with. That's what they grew up with. Was visiting our grandchildren in July, and they got iPods. Anyway, they don't have the phone service, but they do everything else. And my grandson's 6, and I said, Blake, what can you do with that? He said, Granddaddy, watch this. I can make a milkshake. Do y'all know about that? It's got an app where you can make a milkshake. And so you punch on a milkshake, and the glass comes out. The glass like you get in a soda store or whatever. It's a glass, okay? And I like strawberry, so he punches strawberry, and it makes zzz, you can hear this thing going, and then it fills up the glass. And then you put whipped cream on the top, and then the cherry goes on top. He said, and now I can drink it. And the straw goes in, and it goes, and the thing goes down. I said, man, that's great. What else can you do? He said, I can make a pizza. And so he punches the pizza out, and it shows this pizza thing on there, and it puts the sauce on it, and it puts the cheese on it, and it puts the pizza around it, and it bakes it, and he says, and now I can eat it. And he goes, chomp, chomp, and it's taking a little bite. And I'm going, that's great. And he walks away, and I went, wait a minute. He told me he made a strawberry milkshake and a pepperoni pizza, and he ate both, and he drank it, and he ate it, and he didn't do none of that stuff. It's a virtual world, and the younger people live in it and know about it. If I'm going to make a milkshake, I'm going to make a milkshake. I'm not going to go, I don't do that stuff, okay? So anyway, and it's part of our lives today. 3 under that, it says golfers coming to me about prices. It just said golfer, but golfers it should have been. And then the one under that, gossip, and we'll spend a little bit of time on gossip the next time, or excuse me, 2 times from now when we talk about communication, having to terminate employees, that kind of thing. Lazy people and staff, yeah. Right under that, managers who don't understand their roles and responsibilities. Part of this is to better help you understand that. Maybe you got it all. Maybe you got part of it. Maybe something that we do might help you in that regard. Motivating people who haven't had a raise, and that's we'll spend some time talking about that. Negative or bad attitudes. Never-ending issues. Never-ending issues. I love that one. If you ever find, whoever wrote that or thought it, if you ever find a place that you can go work where there are never-ending issues, call me because I want to come. You remember the guy, Norman Vincent Peale, The Power of Positive Thinking, wrote the book, The Power of Positive Thinking. He was also a minister, and I heard him speak one time. He passed away, I think, back in the 80s. But a guy came up to him after church one Sunday, said, Dr. Peale, you talk about the power of positive thinking and all that stuff. He said, tell you what, he said, I'll write you a check for $1,000 if you can tell me where I can go where I won't have any problems. Dr. Peale said, write the check and get in the car. And he drove him to the cemetery. He said, those people don't got no problems? They got no issues? Okay. Gas goes up, so what? There's a war, so what? Okay. If you alive, you got issues. If you're dealing with people, you got issues. Now what happens is you have more of a business family probably than what you realize. When my mother passed away, our best friends, our sons, godparents, Clemson fans, and all that stuff. Anyway, he said, how's it going? I'm from a large family, 4 siblings, and I said, well, it's kind of going okay. There's a little bit of rub between some of us. And he said, he calls everybody Bo. He said, hey, Bo. He said, if it wasn't for family, we wouldn't have problems. And I went, what? He said, how long have we known each other? I said, 35 years. He said, you got any problems with me? I go, no. He said, I don't have any problems with you either. He said, but I don't speak to one of my sisters, and one of my sisters don't speak to my mother, and I can't stand my mother. I mean, and so it's in that family realm. The closer we are sometime, and we'll talk about more about the family, but never-ending issues, there are always going to be issues. Now, if you meant the ones that never end, because it's the same dadgum thing, one of you mentioned decision making in this. Let me give you the 3 responses or 3 ways to look when it's time to make a decision. In any decision, you only got 3 choices. In any decision, you only have 3 choices. You can leave it like it is, you can change it, or you can terminate it. There are no more. That's all. That's all. So never-ending issues. If solve it, do something. A friend of mine, I'll see him next week from Virginia. He's went to the Washington Redskins. Any Redskin fans? Okay. He went to the Redskins game from when he was a little kid. His daddy was a season ticket holder. He's a season ticket holder. Anyway, it's some playoff game that they were in 4 or 5 years ago. It had been moved to the afternoon. They were trying to get to the stadium. They had to go across the George Washington Bridge, and they were trying to get there 2 hours ahead of time so they could get in their seats and go to Huron and all that stuff. Anyway, what happened was the traffic got backed up. And the reason that it got backed up was because there was a guy who had stopped on the George Washington Bridge. This guy, he said, I'm about 6 cars back. He said, then behind me is forever. He said, this guy had gotten out of his car and gone and standing on the ledge of the bridge threatening to jump and commit suicide. And they had all the rescue people there and talking. He said, I'm there 45 minutes, I'm there an hour, I'm there an hour and 15 minutes, I'm there an hour and a half. When I look around and see these guys that had already been celebrating the game, he said, you could tell. He said, they come walking and they're going. He said, I'm going to go see what these guys are going to do. And so they walk up and they get as close as they can, and they look at the guy on the ledge of the bridge and yelled, decide. Jump or come down, we got to go, okay? But decision-making things. People who talk and don't do, problems follow me home on the weekend. If you're in management, that's probably going to happen. Repeatedly having to correct, it comes with the territory, and we'll talk more about that as well. Pressure self-doubt into making the wrong decision, and the same work ethic. Over on the next page, I'll talk about a couple, and then we'll wrap up. I put computers on there, but I can't help you with that. I know how to turn mine on. It's kind of like my car. I know how to drive it. I don't know how it works, and I don't care. Dealing with different personalities, we'll do that. Goal setting, delegation, we'll do that. Motivation, how to impart knowledge. Time management, we might do if this goes well and kind of works, and we'll meet after our 4 times together. Then it might be once every 6 months or so, getting some feedback from you, come in and talk about some things, and maybe time management might be one of them. Number one characteristic of being a top leader: there's not a number one, but there are some. Action would be the number one. And when to recognize my faults. There's something called blind spots that we have, okay? You ever thought much about blind spots? We've all got them. And when we have blind spots, we can't see them. It takes somebody else to see them in us. As I heard a guy define this one day, he said, they're not called spots I have yet to discover. They're called blind spots. So it's good to get, good to get feedback. Tell me what you see that I'm doing and or not doing. Okay, I'll give you a minute to think, and I want to tell 2 things, and then we'll go. Take just a moment and think about this. What do you, and I won't go around the whole room, but I'd like 4, 5, 6, or 8, or however many of you are brave enough to do it, to respond to this. What do you know now that you didn't know 3 hours ago? What do you know now? And it may be directly what we covered there, or it may have been an offshoot because something triggered you to do. What do you know now that you didn't know 3 hours ago? What do you know now that you didn't know 3 hours ago? Or what do you better realize? Or what do you see clearer now than you did 3 hours ago? Go ahead. They've changed. Okay.
There's no issues at the cemetery.
Say again?
There's no issues at the cemetery.
There are no issues at the cemetery. I mean, it's true. Since I heard it, I ride by there and go, okay. Gas went up. Not for them. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but that's true. Please.
We're all in this together to, if we can figure out how to make our departments better.
Good.
Period.
Good. That's the time, effort, energy, and money is meant to provide some insights into doing that.
So it's exciting.
Good. Thank you. Somebody else. I wonder, please.
Some of the differences between the leaders and managers and what they do.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it gets to me and you go, well, wait a minute, I want to implement. Wait a minute, I want to go over there. No, it takes both. It takes both. Okay, what else? Anybody?
I think that you broke us up in different groups was educational. Identifying that and thinking about how you communicate with each other is important.
Yeah, it is, and I'll just tell you, I mean, this is just fact. The group divided differently than I anticipated that it would. There was more over here. I thought it would be a little heavier to one side, but I didn't think it would be, what y'all have them, 42-6 or something? I don't know. I don't know. We were going to have a contest. Y'all beat them. What else?
You're right, we couldn't field a football team on that.
No. Maybe a basketball team with one sub, but that was about it.
I think a lot of us
Really? That's interesting. That's interesting. I don't know that it has true meaning, but it's interesting. Okay. What else? What do you know now that you didn't know or realize now that you didn't an hour ago? Bake up management. Yeah. I'll take that one. Bake up management. No.
The last page for me was revealing what people wanted to learn more about.
Okay. In revealing not any specific one, but in revealing.
You kind of put them together, and you got an underlying thing here, how to interact more with the people that report.
Yeah.
As an example.
Yeah.
Just that whole list.
To me, what it showed is the desire's there. The want to is there. And when the want to is there, people ask me sometimes, well, I got one salesperson over here that's got all the talent in the world, and I got one that doesn't. I said, which one has the want to? Well, this one. In 5 years' time, this one will be way ahead of this one. Just give me the want to. So thank you, Jim. Anybody else? Okay, my hope is it's been a little bit entertaining, it's been a little bit equipping, it's been a reminder for some of you. You got some stuff you can take, work, build on, or what have you. But my hope is it's caused you maybe to stop and think or rethink your role, your job in a different way. Any country western music fans? Any of you country western music fan? I'm not a country western music fan per se, but I am a fan of country western music song titles because they make you think. Somebody gave me a list of them 20 years ago, and one of them on the list that makes me, the title of the song is this: I don't know whether to kill myself or go bowling. I don't know. How do you have to how do you have to be thinking to get to that point? But I heard a title not long ago, a couple years ago, and it makes me think. And this is the last one I added. By the way, if you've heard some others, I'll be glad to take them. But it's this. Never heard the song. I'd almost buy this. I'd do MP3, whatever you do that stuff with. But anyway, I don't know how to work it. But it's this. Here's the title: If you can't live without me, why are you still alive? I mean, doesn't that just? I mean, it just makes you stop and think. So hopefully it has. And I'll end with a question. Do most dogs like bones? No, ladies and gentlemen, dogs like steak. They settle for bones. So in your life and in your career, what are you settling for? You see, you can have more and be more than what you think. And I'm not talking about you can go from an 18 handicapper to a scratch golfer in 2 weeks. That's not what I'm talking about. But you can get better. You can get better, you can be better equipped, and hopefully it will give you some more joy and spirit and energy to do your job. But I want to thank you for giving me your attention for this time. I look forward to being with you for the next 3 times. Bring your notebooks, and the ones that weren't here will get notebooks supplied to them, and we'll start with personalities the next time, and I'll bring the tabs for you that didn't get them next time as well. Thank you very much. Have a great Labor Day weekend. Thank you.